You have more AI tools at your disposal now than you've ever had, and you're producing more than you ever have, and you're more exhausted than you've ever been. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound like progress to you? Because it isn't. It's a warning signal. And almost nobody that's building with AI right now is paying close enough attention to it, and it's going to come back to bite them. In this video today, I'm going to show you why using AI more is quietly making it harder to think without it. And more importantly, share with you the specific protocol that's going to allow you to make sure that this does not happen to you. Some quick context as we dive into this. I'm Jesse Hoffman. I'm the founder of The Clarity Code. I'm a performance coach, and I work with entrepreneurs, operators, and founders from 6 to 8 figures across 4 continents. Anyone scaling businesses who are hitting ceilings that more strategy, more tools, more hours put in will not fix. Lately, for a lot of them, that ceiling has a new name: AI. As we get rolling on this, if you're in a position where you're ready to stop being the bottleneck in your own business, there's a link in the description below to apply for a complimentary session with me. Let's get this going. First, let me address what I see to be the common belief that almost everyone building with AI is operating on right now. They have some sort of understanding that more AI equals less work, which equals more energy. The less you had to do one thing means the more energy you're now going to have for other things. What actually is going to happen is an output paradox, where more AI equals more output, but it also means less clarity and more exhaustion. And that happens as a result of a structural mismatch between your AI, how it runs, how you interface with it, and how your brain operates. So it's not going to have anything to do with discipline or the tools that you're using, but rather the underlying system that's interfacing with those tools. Think about dropping a race car engine into a car with a faulty steering mechanism or bad brakes. A faster engine isn't going to do shit for that car. All it means is that that car is going to crash harder than it would otherwise. And that's exactly what's happening when people are bolting on AI to brains that haven't been actually upgraded to run it. AI is not going to fix your internal operating system. It just amplifies everything that's running underneath it. And if that layer underneath is broken, if it's degraded, then more AI horsepower just makes that crash mentally, cognitively worse. So you can think about your brain like a battery or a filing cabinet. Your working memory only has a handful of slots that it can use. And under normal conditions, without excessive inputs, a few things will sit there at a time and be somewhat organized and pretty manageable. AI completely breaks that. It can generate way more open loops, half-finished ideas, or I should get around to that, I should fix that moments, than your brain can possibly physically close within a day. And so instead of a nice filing cabinet with some manageable organized slots, you're now carrying a junk drawer, cluttered, overflowing, disorganized, nothing properly filed away. And therefore, no closed loops. Your brain holds on to all these unfinished things as active background processes until they're resolved. And the problem is AI is extremely good at generating unfinished things, but it happens to also be extremely bad at helping you close them. And even I, pretty intellectual, high processing ability, can grasp complex ideas, which means I maybe create more complex ideas than the average person, but even then, AI generates open loops way faster than I can possibly close them, and that gap is where I have felt a lot of exhaustion from, and where many people start to feel burnt out from. Now, maybe that part is a little bit more intuitive, more obvious to you, but here's the part that nobody is talking about. When you go deep on that cognitive work yourself, start to finish, your brain registers that completion from the time you open the task to the time you see it through and complete it. You get that little mental check mark. But when you turn to AI and you outsource that execution, that signal isn't going to fire the same way. You're going to start a task, it's going to technically get finished without your input. How efficient, but your brain doesn't necessarily get that same internal confirmation that it would otherwise. And so consciously, you might know that it's getting done in the background, but you move on to the next thing, just still carrying the sense of that last task. Outsourcing all of that thinking or that execution doesn't actually outsource the effort. It removes the actual trigger, that sense of completion that actually lets your brain switch off or close out that task. And you can imagine you're doing this multiple times throughout the day under the guise of all of this productivity and efficiency. But a finished AI output and a finished thought are not the same thing in your brain. And treating them as such is exactly what's going to keep you wired, keep you on edge. And there are a ton of studies that go deeper on the cost of this. And there is a real cost to this. And that cost in the world of cognitive psychology is called attention residue. And what that means is that a task can end, but you won't have full closure on it. And because of that, your subconscious attention, or even conscious attention at times, stays attached to that task. And that residue actually drains your focus, your cognitive energy that you need otherwise to whatever is next in front of you. And if you were to compare this to tasks that you go in and complete yourself the inefficient way, where you would have a high level of ownership, that leads to a lower residue. You dive in deep, you complete the task, you detach from it. That's not the case with AI. Tasks that AI is completing with you is going to carry low ownership, but you're going to have a way more critical residue because that task had enough meaning for you to want to have it done in the first place, but there's no psychological closure to it now being complete. And the really hard part about this is that the output, at the end of the day, it looks the same. The task is done, but that's only on the surface, because beneath the surface, everything that's left in your head, that is not the same. And so with all of those compounding ideas, those compounding tasks that you're now having AI do for you, it's being done without a closing step to it. You're not processing it out. And so you have more residue that you're carrying, even marginally, on every single little task, and it continues to compound throughout an entire week. And that compounding effect over the course of that week and then the next can turn critical into the point of full recovery failure because AI doesn't get tired. But we only have a certain amount of cognitive ability. We have a cognitive load that maxes out. And AI is not able to account for that. It doesn't build in all of that friction that you otherwise are supposed to have that would normally force you to stop working on something or direct you down a more narrow path towards staying focused on one thing. And if you just think about how times have progressed, like think about it this way, no longer are people getting up from their desks and going to make copies at the copying machine or waiting for emails to come through or documents to render. A lot of that can happen in the background with our agents, with our skills and our loops. There's no natural pauses. And always on AI 24/7 means always on you. You're always on. Your brain never gets a chance to rest. Even if you're consciously detached, watching a sports game or out on a vacation or engaged in some other task, that residue is still there. And when you come back to the next task at hand, all of that comes with it. Recovery isn't optional. And repeated decision-making, prompting, ideation without specific, focused recovery is going to force your brain to one of two defaults, either the status quo or straight up inaction. And I have spent a lot of my life in the mindset of efficiency. Everything needs to be efficient. Efficiency maxing, if you will. I can't believe I just said that. But especially now in the world of AI, I've opened my eyes up to the fact that friction is functional. Friction isn't a flaw. It's actually desperately needed because without that forced friction that AI strips away, the recovery windows that your brain needs to chill out for a second and reset, they disappear as well. And your decision quality, your cognitive output entirely pays for that without you really noticing it. But it is not too late. There is a way to control this and fix it. And it really is pretty simple. But before I share this protocol, if any of this has been pretty valuable or eye-opening and you want to keep hearing more, especially around the topic of AI, hit the subscribe button. Maybe drop in the comments something that you'd want for me to go deep on. I appreciate the support. Here's that protocol for you. Every time AI generates an output, or every time you prompt it for an output, it gets one of two labels. It's either going to be acted on today and fully resolved with some sort of intervention from you, or it's going to get deferred to a specific date that you can put on the calendar. That active effort on your part is what creates some sort of connection between your brain and that output. But that's it. One of those two labels. Not a, oh yeah, I'll deal with this later, or oh, let me do this while it's doing that, and then I'll get back to this. And then there's all these things other in the background running, and I'll eventually let one or two slip through the cracks. No, that's unacceptable. So that single step, that single loop closing protocol gives your brain the closure signal that it really needs, that it wasn't going to get on its own without it. And through that, you're offloading some of that attention residue instead of just letting it stack up without your awareness. I'll remind you, I've had to figure this out for myself the hard way. I had to go to the depths of experiencing this to realize how important what I'm saying really is. And I've even worked with another 7-figure founder who was drowning in all these AI-generated decisions. Their clarity was declining by the week, despite doing more than they've ever done, having more output than they could have ever imagined. And when it finally got to the point where they realized how detrimental it was to them, we implemented 2 changes. That daily loop closing protocol on every single output that was being generated, as well as an end-of-day cognitive shutdown ritual. Everyone loves their morning routines. Have you ever had a proper shutdown ritual in the evening to prepare you for the next day? Well, with this founder, within just 2 weeks, he found that his decision quality restored, and he wasn't using AI less. He was still able to maximize the value of AI because there is tremendous value, but it's because his cognitive system, his nervous system, could finally start closing some of the loops that AI was opening up. So you need to be able to have that off switch. AI without an off switch is just going to make your brain, your body, all that tension, it's just going to make it louder, and it's going to lead you to depletion faster. And those protocols are the off switch. And so again, none of this means using AI less. I love AI. I want to keep using it as much as I possibly can. But what this does mean is the 5 things underneath you, the 5 dimensions that contribute to your performance: how clear you think, how you lead, whether it's yourself or others, or AI, how you manage your energy, how you consistently act and take action, how well you actually properly recover. Those layers have to be strong enough to handle what AI is capable of producing. But when you can get those things right, AI becomes a multiplier to that system. It amplifies your ability and your capacity to operate. If you neglect those layers, AI will amplify and multiply the dysfunction, the mess, the burnout. And those 5 dimensions make up my clear diagnostic that's able to measure your current capacity and your current performance to see what's holding you back and where the friction is coming from. So if you'd like to take that, or if you're ready to work on this directly, both those links are right below in the description. But tonight's action step, what I want you to take away and implement immediately coming out of this video, is literally open up Claude, open up ChatGPT, open up whatever the hell you're using, and go through every single output that has been produced today. Is it something you're able to take action on today and close the loop on? Or are you going to schedule it out and set a specific date where you can close the loop and come back to it when it's time? Nothing gets to stay unlabeled. Do that for yourself, I beg of you. And make sure to click the like button, subscribe, and check out this next video. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.